Okay, well, first off, I appreciate you all coming down today. Just a regular day, 2 days before training camp starts. That was a joke.
Tough crowd.
Yes, yeah, trust me, I know. I'd like to start by saying I'm very excited, as Jeff alluded to, my role changing to serve as senior advisor to Julian Brisebois, as well as the entire hockey operations department and the entire organization as well. I feel this change in role is important for me, which will allow me to spend more time with my family.
The season's coming up quick. You got the ball tournament on Wednesday, on Thursday. When's it playing?
I think there's a few things that we're hoping to accomplish. I think what fans are looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to, is a season that's like fresh and brand new. Something that we can look forward to with young players coming in. And I think we can gel them into something, a very, very serious team. Much bigger than a lot of people, I think, believe. Right now, we're kind of in the dumpster,
The Hockey Podcast. That is right. We are 2 days away from training camp starting for the National Hockey League. Hello, it is the Hockey Podcast. It is I, Kevin Melynk, here with you. Follow me, KVOLE, Spreaker.com, KVOLE. Subscribe on iTunes as well. Add me as a friend on Facebook as well. And joining me, as always, it seems, is Sean again. Hello.
Hello.
And Tyler's with us as well.
Hey, Kevin.
How's it going? Are you all ready for hockey?
I'm very antsy to get the puck dropped and get going with hockey for sure.
Yeah. Sean, are you ready?
Oh, yeah. I was watching the Canucks and Jets play in Penticton on the weekend, so that got me more than excited.
Yes. Lots to talk about, too. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll chat a little bit Flames prospect. Maybe. But we've got Eugene Melynk to talk about. We've got Steve Yzerman to talk about. Is it a crime against humanity if the Edmonton Oilers do not make the playoffs? We'll also talk a little bit about that. And as we are recording, and it may break as we record, the Calgary City Council is deciding on whether or not to bid on the 2026 Winter Olympics, which I have deemed and dubbed the hashtag Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Victoria, Whistler, Kamloops, Kelowna, British Columbia, Alberta, Trans-Canada Highway 2026 Olympics. We'll get into that. We also are expecting another person to join us at some point, as Austin, we may remember from other shows like Hot Take Hockey. He's going to come on, and because we have to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course. But maybe let's start from last night, because the poor Ottawa Senators have had the PR nightmare of PR nightmares. And as Sean and Tyler can they'll tell you, PR in narratives is been a big theme of the summer. But Eugene Melynk went on, and the video yesterday, he was interviewed by a Mark Borowiecki, who is not a reporter. He is a depth defenseman for the Ottawa Senators. And we just played a little bit of that clip, but there was also a lot else that happened on there. Maybe let's find, there was more on there, which caused a lot of people some angst, which included the fact that basically Eugene Melynk used the rebuild word and basically admitted that they're to expect about 10 new players this year, 15 new players next year, and maybe let's start there. What on earth did you think of this video? Was it as disastrous as people are making this out to be, or was this maybe a little bit more brilliant than people are giving it credit to be?
It was definitely awkward and very much just hard to watch at times. I definitely like the title that it's been dubbed as Between Two Sens, and but it was definitely awkward. It seemed more lip service and fan service to me than anything else, though.
For me, I just wonder what the necessity of the video was. I don't live in Ottawa, so I'm not as immersed in the day-to-day discussion of the Senators. But when somebody does something like this, looking at it from a public relations point of view, it just comes across looking really desperate. And maybe we have a bit of a trend forming when it comes to ownership in the NHL, where they don't want to face accountability from the public. We talked in a previous podcast about how Francesco Aquilini wants to communicate directly with presumably paying customers through Twitter, as opposed to getting up in front of the media and having to answer some uncomfortable questions. So for Melynk to do this is kind of another way in which to control the questioning, control the narrative. And you get a few thoughts that he wants out in a way that he feels comfortable with. It's just like the question that's being asked all over the place is like, who said okay to this? Whose idea was this? Who could sit there and say that this would go over well? To me, clearly this is what the owner wanted, and everybody went along with it, including Mark Borowiecki there. And I just it's weird. I mean, I get the idea of being upfront with the fans about rebuilding, but the part that I actually found kind of the most strange was addressing the whole threat of moving the team. Like, Melnyk's on there saying that some people are talking like the team's going to move. He himself raised that in December.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that it was the...
Talk as you've known the last few days about whether you're trying to sell the team or not. We'll just ask, are you looking for investors at all or any of that sort whatsoever when it comes to this organization?
No. As far as equity investors, are no. But we have a debt. Every 5 years or so, we renew our debt deals that we have. And what that means is there's a point in time, for example, March, we have a window of 6 months to pay it back and get a lower interest rate. That's all that is. It's a road show that we've done. 14 different dates were set. We had bankers coming in and out of Ottawa visiting us, and it's basically banks, traditional banks that you see every day. But that's the only kind of financial activity that's taking place at all.
So I know you've been adamant that you're not selling the franchise. What would it ever take for you to sell the franchise?
It won't. It just won't happen. It's a franchise. So imagine if you own a McDonald's franchise, but you can move it. But it's not. Why would you sell it? It's something that it's very difficult to buy. You have to, and we're doing okay here. We're not doing great, but we're doing okay. And it's just too much fun. What else do you do? I mean, I'm a Canadian. I'm a hockey fan, fanatically a hockey fan, and it's something I really enjoy doing. I couldn't think of anything better to do.
You said you move it then to be taken away from this event all this time.
I'm sorry?
Does it fire you at all?
No. It keeps the newspapers selling, and it keeps the radio people listening. But in all fairness, it's just not something that I even entertain.
You just said that a franchise like McDonald's could move. Would you ever consider them moving this franchise?
If it becomes a disaster, yes. If you start not seeing crowds showing up, yes. But for now, we are on the cusp of...
Part of that whole outdoor... What was that game anyway? It was the
Heritage Classic.
The Heritage
I believe.
Classic. Yeah. He comes on and he pretty much ruined that event with his comments that the team was going to move. And for him to kind of say anything different is just it's that seemed weird. The other thing that he forgot to mention, and I pointed this out, although the Ottawa Senator prospect pool isn't terrible. They're, according to that recent article in The Athletic, they're in the middle of the pack in terms of prospects. But legitimately, the Ottawa Senators are a lottery team. I think everyone is on board with that. But that pick could be the number one pick. Sorry, guys, I know you're looking for Jack Hughes here. But the Colorado Avalanche could end up with Jack Hughes for Matt Duchene, which would probably turn out to be one of the worst trades in hockey history.
Well, if that doesn't bury Pierre Dorion, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and that's why I think that this video was definitely just more like lip service and attempt at damage control in terms of and like you said, controlling the message, because using Mark Borieski as your interviewer, some guy who is I think I heard, I can't remember who, but it was some Ottawa reporter was interviewed on Vancouver radio, and he said it's like if Eric Goodbranson was interviewing Francesco Aquilini. He's that type of guy, one of those like stay-at-home guys, defenseman who's more of an old school defenseman as opposed to the new school. So very much a controversial guy who just is a third pairing defenseman on the Ottawa Senators. It just makes no sense.
And what's interesting is that the guy wearing the uniform in the video is the owner and not Mark.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah,
and the interview, the uniforms are not even, and this was pointed out today. These were all they're all the old uniforms. They're not even the new uniforms. They're Reebok jerseys.
So some people's attention to detail is pretty good. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. Well, no. I was like, because when I was watching that last night, I was like, that's not their. I was staring. I was like, that's not their current jersey. Is that their current jersey? That doesn't seem right. It was just weird, but.
Well, and then the time that it was released, 1 a.m. Eastern time. I mean, what are they trying to do there? Like, I mean, they're going to face questions about it eventually. They just figure that it would be less severe somehow by doing so late at night. Like, that part's bizarre as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, and what is with? I mean, they must have contacted the Montreal Canadiens, who also pulled off a trade at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I think, are they trading notes there, the Canadians and the Sens, in terms of handling PR? Because I mean that Habs trade was also announced at 1 o'clock Eastern time, which is weird.
And it seems to they seem to be doing things in close time frame, and it's like, all right, we're gonna make a big huge move here that's gonna be criticized to no ends. And then the next, whoever does that first, Montreal or Ottawa, the next day, whoever hasn't done that move is like, all right, so we'll take the heat off you now. So
yeah. So as I mean, you know, I just feel for Ottawa fans because they potentially, like, there was something as I did like about the interview. I thought he made the point that I think that this team is not going to... He tried to make the point that this team is not going to be bad as people think. And I think there is a legitimate possibility that could be true. It's really going to depend, and when we get Austin on here, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about what the potential bargaining chip for Erik Karlsson would be. But you should get a pretty good return for Erik Karlsson. Like, you're not going to... It's... Like, unless you've completely flubbed this up and you're completely drunk, you should get some legitimate players back. I think Brady Tkachuk is going to be... I think if Brady Tkachuk makes that team, I think he's really going to help that team a lot. It's just... So I don't think they're going to be... I don't know if they're going to be as awful as people think, but legitimately, they're still... Doesn't matter. Based on what the Eastern Conference is, they're still in a lottery position, but they may be more competitive, so I kind of get that. But just this approach, I just, like if I'm the Ottawa Senators, my whole, and if I'm a part of their PR, I'm like, okay, Eugene Melynk, you go to the Francisco Anquilini School of Communication. You don't communicate at all. No more. Now, Aquilini, you need to start talking, but Melynk, you need to not talk anymore. You're ruining everything.
Yeah, no kidding.
The other thing with Ottawa is that they've got Mark Stone, Matt Duchene, and then, as we said, Erik Karlsson, all potential UFAs next summer. So not only are they looking down the barrel of potentially giving up a lottery pick to Colorado, but they also have basically two of their top three forwards and their top defensemen all could walk, and they couldn't get they might not be able to get anything for them, or they have to look at trading them and completely getting going full tank, even though they don't have that pick.
Yes. Well, joining us now also is directly from Tampa, Florida, is our old buddy Austin Sablisky, the Tampa Bay Lightning fan. How's it going?
Hey, Kevin. I'm glad you could have me on a podcast. I thought it was really nice for you to invite me on this one. I'm really excited.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. Austin, did you see the Eugene Melynk video?
No, I did not today. Sorry, I've been busy a lot with work.
Okay.
I was busy in the morning and working today, so I have, except for what happened to Steve Yzerman, I haven't really read that much NHL news today.
Okay, well, we'll get into Yzerman in a second, but that's where we're starting with is Eugene Melynk. Basically, you'll have to find it. It's one of the more amusing videos out there. He went on Ottawa, posted on the Senators' Twitter page, and their Senators video. He basically did an interview, and it's like we're starting there with a dog and pony show. But I mean, I guess the question then comes up here, though, with how and Sean and Tyler meet Austin, Sean and Tyler, as we just do this in part of recording. We how should a team communicate their plans for the future? Like, I feel like we got the standard with the New York Rangers when they sent the letter to their fan base before the trade deadline last year saying, okay, we're going to go through some rough times, so it's going to be worth it. And then we've also had this year the Trevor Linden, the basic debacle of what happened over the summer here in Vancouver. So what, like, if you guys were sitting with some owners and say, okay, let's communicate the plan for the upcoming season, what we're going to do, how do you do it?
Well, I like the approach of going to the season ticket holder base first. They are your core group of customers, the ones that are committing the most financially. It's a good move, I think, in terms of the relationship with them to give them the heads up. And then you got to have a press conference arranged fairly quickly thereafter, so you can explain in further detail to the media and answer questions and be accountable for what your plan is going to be. It's like these owners want to do part of that, but not the other. They don't want to answer questions, and if your plan is so good, what is the discomfort with getting in front of the cameras and answering a few questions? I don't get it.
I agree with what you're saying, Tyler, because on the subject of, I know it's different from, like the Rangers of their quick rebuilding process that they want to do. But like Steve Yzerman's not afraid to announce, like he wanted to, he had a press conference about what he did. I mean, it's like he's a professional man who just wanted to explain so no one was confused or scared or worried about what's going on, what his plan is. And that's the thing that's different from some hockey teams, that some of them, for some weird reason, are okay with, communicating with, communicating with their fan base, and just for some weird reason, some teams just don't want to. And I mean, when you look at the Montreal Canadiens, it's like you had to find out from a news article that they spoke directly to Max Pacioretty saying, we are not giving you another contract. And it's like, it's just making the Montreal fan base just like even more angry. It's like I wish him the best of luck in Vegas, but it's like he's been their captain for I forget how many years now. But it's like it seems like there's been so many recent things that Montreal Canadiens have been doing to anger their fan base, and it just baffles me.
Yeah, I think you have to be open and honest in your approach of communicating what the direction is, as to the season ticket holders first, and then hosting a press conference, an open forum with media where you do answer the questions, and this cloak and dagger and controlling the message really doesn't fly with fans anymore. And the way that Ottawa's been handling it, the way that Francesco Aquilini in Vancouver has been handling it, the way Montreal's been handling it, you're going to see a blowback here soon, if not this season, definitely going forward. In Ottawa, there's the report out now that their season ticket base for a 16 to 18,000 seat arena is 4,000, and that's ridiculous, especially in hockey crazed Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I was just going to add, Kevin, that I guess I would have to guess that owners taking this approach just have such a huge distrust for the sports media in their markets. Both Francesco Aquilini in Vancouver and Eugene Melynk in Ottawa have been there as the owners for a long time now, and they're probably feeling like they've been burned a few times with things that got misunderstood or taken out of context or whatever phrase you want to use. And so they're saying basically, screw it, I'm not doing the press conference. The heck with the flack. At least I get my message across.
The outside volume.
Yeah. There is another ownership group that I think I do want to point out that has been guilty of this, and it has been the Calgary Flames ownership group with this whole arena project. We may chat about this a little bit later, but with the whole arena project, we haven't heard a single boo from an owner. We heard from Ken King, but he's not the owner of the team. He's the president of the team, but he's not the owner. It's, I guess I don't understand what the fear really is. To me, as a media person, the way that I look at this is we're giving you the forum to share your message. We're not trying to twist your words. It's your words. There's nothing. If you're open and honest, I think that your fan base will appreciate that a lot more than the cloak and dagger and the mystery and the 1 o'clock at night trade announcements or videos. It just seems weird.
I would say the trade announcements are on a different level than the video, though, because in today's age of needing to be first for news, trying to wait till the morning to announce that, someone would have broken it anyways. So might as well get ahead of the curve and just announce it. But launching that video at that time for Ottawa it seems really weird and really makes you question how or what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with how it's when it comes to sometimes there's a period of time where you don't hear anything, and it's just you're wondering, well, it's after you hear a big announcement or whether it's a rumor or if it's true, and all of a sudden then the statement goes cold to where you don't hear anything about it. It's just you're wondering what's going on. It's I guess what you guys, especially what you're talking about with the Ottawa organization, it's 2-3 months ago they're talking about either Vegas, Dallas, or Tampa Bay wanting Erik Karlsson, and then until today, I don't know if there's any update or news, but there was I could swear a period of time of almost a month where it was just it was just cold. You didn't hear anything from Ottawa, what was going on. It was what is their plan or what are they going to do? Because if I'm Ottawa, I don't know if this is what their mindset is, but if you're already dealing enough so far for almost a year of rumors of him wanting to leave Ottawa, and it's we're now less than 4 weeks away from the season starting, 3 weeks away now almost. It's training camp's coming up in a couple of days, and you still have Erik Karlsson on your team. It's and you're trying to avoid the least amount of drama you can. Even though they say they want to, it's just I just don't understand why it's they've just been so quiet. It's just it just doesn't make sense.
Well, let's get into I guess these. I actually think that there's 3 stories here that actually blend, and we'll get into this here. So let's maybe, because there is a report out there. David, the fourth period, has tweeted that there is an expectation that Erik Karlsson should be traded within the next 24 to 36 hours. I believe that part of this Melynk video is in part for preparation for this trade. I could see that as part of that strategy. So maybe we'll start with Austin first. Austin, are you expecting Erik Karlsson in a Tampa Bay jersey?
To be honest, because when they first announced that there was rumor that Erik Karlsson was wanting to be with Tampa Bay, and I mean, it's like they can always. I mean, I'm not saying really stress out like the words, like maybe like really like lie, but it's like it seems like part of it was. I'm assuming somewhat true that he had maybe said that he wanted to be part of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how much is that is 100% true. The thing is that they were, because they kept mentioning what they would have to get rid of or give up in order to get Erik Karlsson, because, I mean, they've given up a lot. Like the last 3 years, they've given them their first-round pick to, what's led to – I mean, I'm happy with what we've gotten when we got JT Miller and Ryan McDonough and, like, these last couple of years what we've acquired. But it's like, it seems like to me, if we're going to get Erik Karlsson, it seems like we're giving up another first round pick. It's most likely Cal Foot. And it seems like if this was to happen, this trade with Tampa Bay, and there would maybe have to be a third team involved as well besides Ottawa and Tampa. I mean, I'm not saying he's the greatest player or the best player on their team, but he's definitely a good leader, with his veteran presence like that possibly that Ryan Callahan would be part of this trade because of his contract situation with, it's like he's a good player and all, but it's like the contract he's with is just that, since day one of acquiring him has been a hassle because he's making $5.5 million and he's now a fourth line player. So that was the rumor that he would be part of this three-way, 3-team deal. And then for a while, I didn't hear anything. Like, it was cold. I don't know what to expect now. Like, maybe he might be with Tampa Bay. I don't know who would also be involved in this trade if Tampa Bay decides to acquire him. And it's nothing against Erik Karlsson. I think he would be a great part of our defense group that we already have. I'm not entirely sure. Like, I'm like split between the same. Like, I'm split. Like, on one end, I would love for him to be part of a Lightning organization. And I think he does as well. But at the same time, do we really want to take that risk? Because nothing against having more defense depth added to your team, but it's like it's not like our defense is that not good. I mean, we have a developing, Sergachev along with, Ryan McDonough and Strawman and Hedman, and then they're not the best defensemen, but they definitely add a veteran core to the team with having Coburn and, Girardi. And, Cuckoo might develop and play more minutes, instead of being in the minor league. I don't know. Even Jay Dotchin is a possible. Like, there's a lot of room. I mean, there's a lot of options on the defense. So I'm not entirely sure if that's what their plan is still. Like, they still want to add him to the team. So, I know I went kind of off a little rant, or tangent, but basically in a nutshell, I maybe expect him to be in a Lightning jersey, but I'm not like super confident. I'm not like expecting it like entirely.
Do we expect Erik Karlsson to be traded soon?
I do expect him to be traded, but I'm not entirely positive that it's going to be in a Lightning jersey. I know he's going to get traded. Okay. I feel like it's coming, but I don't expect it to be a for sure thing that he's heading to Tampa, because it's not the only team he possibly could.
Let's hear from Sean and Tyler, though, Austin. Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
That's all right. I was just going to say I would agree that a trade is imminent. Prior to yesterday, I would have thought, or whenever the Max Pacioretty deal came down, I would have thought that Vegas was the most likely landing spot for Erik Karlsson. I mean, you look at it. You look at him, just the way he walks into the arena, and that confidence and that very showy way that Erik Karlsson has, just seems like a great fit in Vegas. And you would think that the Senators would want to trade him to the other conference, Tampa Bay and Toronto, which has also been mentioned as a team kicking tires. They're divisional rivals, so so I don't know. But now Vegas has made the Max Pacioretty acquisition. You start thinking about cap. Makes you wonder now if Tampa moves to the top of at least my list again. The timing is quite interesting to hear, to have this Senators video come out and then the Steve Yzerman news today. I mean, it does make you wonder if there's some connection between the two and if a trade is imminent or perhaps Yzerman has stepped back from the general manager role and it has something to do with Erik Karlsson. I mean, it really makes you wonder what's going on in both those organizations right now.
Yeah, I would say that there is a good chance that Karlsson is traded at least before training camp opens, but it's such a tricky and delicate situation that if it doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised either. And Tampa is definitely up there and is probably my top two with Dallas in terms of.
I was going to say
teams. Dallas.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, Dallas. That's the other one that would be up there to get Karlsson. I would say they've got more of what Ottawa would want in terms of prospects coming back than Tampa. But whether or not they're willing to give them up, because you could make the argument that the number one trade target for Ottawa to get for Karlsson would be Heiskanen out of Dallas, and you can make an argument that he could be just as useful to Dallas as Karlsson would in 2-3 years' time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a couple of dark horse. Okay, I've already talked about one dark horse with Sean, and I might have mentioned this on Twitter. I do agree that the longer if this doesn't last, if this lasts a while, I still think that the Winnipeg Jets have an outside shot at this. And if I was the Winnipeg Jets, I would take that risk. I think they have the prospects to back up this trade. They do have a malcontent defenseman, poor word, or a defenseman that they certainly seem disenfranchised with that I think is valuable to the Senators and Jacob Trouba that can be a part of that deal. They have enough prospects that they can give up that they're not going to be in terrible shape. And like the whole Kawhi Leonard debate that happened with the Raptors, sometimes you got to put your big boy pants on. If I'm the Winnipeg Jets, if I get Erik Karlsson, you are ahead of Nashville, and you are probably the favorite to win the Cup. So I'm going to put that out there as like a dark horse. Another legitimate dark horse that I think, I'm not counting out the San Jose Sharks out of this. They have been sneakily involved in some moves. They kind of take that New Jersey Devil approach or that Lou Lamoriello approach where they're like, kind of sneak in there and nobody's paying attention and all of a sudden they show up. So I wouldn't be surprised if San Jose is there. I'm sensing that by the weekend, I think Erik Karlsson's in a different jersey though. And I think it's going to be one of those landscape moment trades, but we'll have to see.
Kevin, can I ask you a quick question? It's because Sean mentioned Dallas. Now, if Dallas becomes the team that wants Erik Karlsson, he does land on Dallas because, that might, if they want to maybe get him on the opposite conference instead of trading him to the same division and conference, does that affect the chances of Tyler Seguin staying with Dallas if they sign and re-sign Karlsson and if he goes to Dallas? Because that's a big talk about this year because he's on the last year of his contract, Tyler Seguin.
I would say that helps them keep Tyler Seguin for sure. We talked about this on the last podcast, I believe.
Yeah.
And with him being upset that they hadn't even really discussed contract negotiations, but I definitely think the major reason for that is the fact that they're in on Erik Karlsson, and if they do get him, then I don't think Dallas is quite is close to the cap, and their owner Gagliardi isn't hurting for cash. So if they get Karlsson, I don't see them being any qualms in ponying up the cash to get Tyler Seguin locked up long term.
Well, I think it'd be easier to get that deal done for sure with Seguin, seeing their chances of winning dramatically increased.
I just, to me, what I said is I feel like I can see everyone's point with Seguin. I feel like the Dallas Stars aren't exactly as sold as everyone else on giving Seguin a big contract. And there's no doubt about the guy's talent. Nobody will ever dispute that. But as Tyler mentioned, we don't seem to have this conversation about the Ontario guy. But this Ontario guy has been a bit of a dressing room issue. And you can't deny that. That was why he got traded to Dallas in the first place, is because he was one. And the reports are that hasn't necessarily changed. And I don't know if Dallas, part of me is, even if you get Erik Karlsson, I don't know if Dallas wants to truly commit to Tyler Seguin. I'm not entirely convinced on that. And maybe he will go. I don't think it'll be a Tavares type of thing where, I mean, we may have that conversation, but I certainly don't. I think that there's going to be some teams very hesitant to get involved with Tyler Seguin. That's just me. But the NHL is a bit more conservative than the NBA, and guys like Tyler Seguin sometimes rubs teams the wrong way. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of the old man hockey mentality where anyone who's not like fully in on this team first and all that is going to rub people the wrong way. We saw that with PK Subban and in Montreal, and even still going on in Nashville. You've got the Dougie Hamilton isn't a team player in Calgary, and so on and so forth. It's just, I think more teams are getting away from that, but because I think they understand that these guys need to promote themselves and all that. But yeah, I could see that being an issue going forwards. But I don't see Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars passing up on getting him signed long term just because he's that good of a player.
Yeah, you mentioned that about like when it comes to like from the past or repeating stuff, and it's like we see that also with the Ottawa Senators. It's they saw the Jonathan Tavares thing. New York Islanders didn't get anything in return because he didn't get traded before his contract expired, and look what happened. In signing. I mean, I'm happy with him being in Toronto, but it's like it definitely affected the New York Islanders in a bad way, and with the Ottawa Senators, that they don't want to recreate the same thing with Karlsson, and it's like they started to do that with the same thing that Kevin was talking about when it comes to bad juju in the locker room. It's like you saw that with him getting with Mike Hoffman, with the rumors about what happened with him and his wife or his girlfriend. He gets traded to San Jose, then he comes back to crazy and ironically back to the same division and conference, gets traded to Florida, and he's definitely probably going to be a good teammate there. But it's like at the same time, you just wonder about those players that are just like, rub teams the wrong way. It just makes you feel like, it just makes you wonder.
Yeah. Let's talk about Steve Yzerman. Which is, okay, so we connect Karlsson to Yzerman, and Tyler brought that up. Do we think it's family time, or do we think it's something else with Yzerman? Maybe, well, whoever wants to start kind of get into this, but what do we think about what happened here? Because it is a weird thing to happen. I mean, I think I can understand this from one's perspective that the guy does want to spend time with his family. I don't dispute that, and he hasn't taken any time off for a long time. But there is something weird about the timing of this.
Well, there is, and that's always the stock answer that people give when they don't want to offer their real answer. I mean, the timing right before training camp, like if he wanted to go back and spend time with family, wouldn't he have made this decision a month or two ago?
Yeah.
I mean,
it does strike me like a question, yeah.
The whole thing with that, though, is he and weird as well is that he never moved his family from Detroit. He never moved them to Tampa, so he was commuting back and forth from between Tampa and Detroit. So for me, that just spells that the end game is Detroit. He'll go back to Detroit. He'll be an advisor. He'll go back and spend a season with his family in Detroit, and then he will. My best guess is sign on to be the GM for the last and work with Ken Holland in his last year of his contract because he signed a 2-year extension, and then take over full bore in the year after that.
So let me throw a scenario out to you, the Vancouver guys. So Steve Yzerman takes over in Detroit. That removes Ken Holland to be available for the president's position, possibly in Vancouver. We have heard that link.
Yep.
What do you think?
Well, I don't think anybody would be against the idea. I certainly wouldn't be. But I don't know. It makes you wonder, though, if Ken Holland is even interested in continuing on in some kind of executive capacity. He's been at this a long time. He's already going through a bit of a rebuilding phase now in Detroit, and the Canucks are not exactly in the greatest of shape. Maybe further along the rebuild timeline than where Detroit is, but it just seems too good to be true if that were to be the case. But it would certainly go over well with the fans, I would think.
Yeah, it definitely would. The other option for Ken Holland would be to take a position with Seattle because they're looking at coming in probably 2 seasons time as well. So
that's right, and I there was rumors about that, and I there was some speculation that maybe Yzerman would go that way too, maybe, which is interesting. Austin, how are you feeling about Yzerman no longer the GM of the team, but still in an advisor role? You do have your Detroit Red Wing paraphernalia behind you that I noticed. So,
because I think you kind of remember when I first started being part of YouTube stuff, with BLV NHL and then later Hot Take Hockey. Currently, the thing is, I still appreciate and respect my roots. I mean, I lived in Michigan since the day I was born in Dearborn up until 18, graduated high school. I just didn't get into hockey right away, but I got into it in the latter part of high school, and ever since I've enjoyed hockey so much, and it's my passion. The thing is, like all you guys are saying, I completely agree. I have both the I understand perspective and at the same time, but wait perspective, because it's 2 days before training camp, and it's like, I know, like they said, I don't know if Yzerman said this himself or if one of the Lightning paper reporters said the reason why he finally decided to, have this press conference now was because all the players were off with their families before, getting back to the seriousness of training and exercising before training camp. So he wanted to wait until everyone was back in Tampa to where he could announce this instead of just doing it out of nowhere when everyone was far away. I don't know. I mean, that could be possibly true. But at the same time, you definitely have to look at both. It's kind of weird how it's 2 days before training camp and he's now making this decision. So I see that side. I am happy that, the person that is stepping up as a general manager, I feel bad because I just finally heard his name and I don't know how to pronounce it. I know it starts with the B, Bervey or something. That he was hired the same day, or maybe not the same day, but the exact same time as Yzerman became the GM. He became the assistant GM after being the general manager for the Syracuse Crunch for 7 years before being the assistant general manager of the Lightning. So he's been under Yzerman's wing the whole 8 years that Yzerman was the general manager, so he knows what to do. He knows how to interact with the team. And basically, Yzerman is still, he's still teaching him because he's being the senior advisor to the general manager, and which is really good because yes, there's a little bit of a change in position, but nothing has really changed. It's still the same team, just different title positions. And I mean, I do appreciate the professional side of Yzerman, wanting to be with his family more. I mean, it was shocking to me. It's like me and my mom and my dad were discussing this today earlier. Like, my mom didn't believe me when I was saying this. She was like, that doesn't make sense. His family has been into Michigan the whole time. I'm like, yes, Mom, they have been. His 3 daughters and his wife have been in Detroit the entire time he has been the general manager, and he's barely seen them those 8 years. Sometime, like, he's gotten to see them, but not that much. And I appreciate that because, I mean, that's the best part about the beauty of a hockey player. You not only are great on the ice, but off the ice, you are, like, when you see those kinds of professional people, whether it's with the fans or the media or their family, how much they're, dedicated. It's like, I like that about Yzerman, and I really wish him the best, wanting to see his, like, his daughter's all in college, his wife has been in Detroit the whole time. So I do hope that he gets to see his family more. But at the same time, it's nice that he's still helping out the Lightning while living in Michigan this upcoming season. I'm sure he'll come to visit Tampa Bay, when he, has the time during the season, because he's still part of our organization for another year. That is the question, obviously, after the season is over, when his contract expires, does he sign another contract to be senior advisor or some kind of position with the Lightning, or does he move on to Seattle or to Detroit or, with a Western Canada organization? That obviously remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. I would like to Steve Yzerman to stay with the Lightning because he's been such a great part of this, team, since being general manager, and the stuff he's accomplished with 4 Eastern Conference, appearances in the, in the 8 years, not winning the Stanley Cup, but being in the Stanley Cup for a year and almost making it for 3 other years, winning the general manager award the same year that they went to the Cup finals. So he's got a lot of record on there. But obviously, I wouldn't be upset because of especially with the Michigan roots, I wouldn't be upset if he decided to take a position executively to the Red Wings after this year is over. I would respect that decision. But like you guys all said, it does, with all this stuff about Erik Karlsson, the Senators, or with him going to Detroit, to be with his family, announcing this 2 days before the training camp, there's some positives, and I see why he made this decision, but at the same time, he definitely is some question marks of, the timing of his announcement for sure.
Yeah, that will be very interesting. That'll be an interesting situation going forward. Let's get into the. Austin may not have a lot of opinions on this one, but so if sorry, Austin, but we do have to talk about this. It's a big story out here in Western Canada, specifically.
Yeah. I'm glad to be part of this podcast and talk about hockey, whatever team news. I'm ready, so I'd be happy to hear it.
Okay, so Calgary is the Calgary Olympic bid has been presented to Calgary City Council. And basically, it's, in a nutshell, trying to simplify what is going on is City Council still in the midst of this as we are recording this podcast, 7:02 Pacific time. It is $5.3 billion. It does not include a new arena. It does not include an LRT expansion, transit expansion. It includes possibly a new smaller arena. There's some things good about it, I guess. Curling would be in Edmonton. They would have some events that would be still when Calgary had the 1988 Winter Olympics, but they would also be using Whistler for some events. That's why I have called it the Calgary, Edmonton, Whistler, Kamloops, Kelowna, Victoria, Vancouver, Trans-Canada, British Columbia, Alberta Bid 2026. So, Tyler, of course, you were in Vancouver for the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Sean is currently living in Calgary. Let's kind of talk about this from a sports hockey perspective. What do we think about this? Let's maybe unpack this a little bit.
Sean, you can go first on that one.
Well, Calgary is definitely very much split on the idea of hosting the Olympics, especially now that the bid does not include a new arena for a new large arena that would definitely be hosting the Flames. if that was the case, as well as the transit expansion up to the airport that's been promised to us for going on 8 years now. It's gonna be a tough sell, but it's gonna go to a public I believe it's a plebiscite where the all the citizens in Calgary will vote on whether or not we're going to continue on with the bid in November. So 15th, that's going to be very interesting. Actually, that's what they're voting on today in City Council, is whether or not to continue on and go to the and give the public the choice. But for me, the two big things coming out of the bid today would definitely be the fact that they aren't going to be working towards building a new large arena that would be able to host NHL games, as well as the lack of a transit expansion that was huge and a very big legacy in Vancouver with the Canada line.
It's very interesting to see Calgary go the route of a plebiscite, because Vancouver did that as well, and it's such a huge risk to do. It can totally derail the momentum of the bid. In Vancouver, the big name business people really got behind promoting the yes side, and it was a yes vote, and that really helped push the bid forward. You know, Kevin, you talked about the accounting for the games and the price tag and what's included, what's not included. This was a big discussion with the Vancouver games as well. There was an expansion of the convention center downtown that was not technically part of the Olympics. There was the Canada Line rapid transit system, not technically part of the Olympics. The Sea to Sky Highway expansion between Vancouver and Whistler. All those things got done with the Olympic bid being successful. So that's something to maybe look towards down the line if this whole process goes through and Calgary's bid is being evaluated by the IOC. That would certainly, I think, get a little more momentum behind some of these things that are not included in the Olympic bid. Would help push those projects forward. Because I'm a believer, like the Olympics, for better or for worse, can be a huge catalyst that you just won't get otherwise. And I say this all the time about Vancouver. Would the Canada Line rapid transit system exist today if it were not for the 2010 games? I would say that it would not exist. So maybe there's some momentum to be had for the new Flames arena if this Calgary bid gets more into fruition, more closer to the actual bid time frame for the IOC. That's kind of something to wait and see. But the idea of a renovated Saddle Dome, I mean, that's still not the long-term solution for the Flames. It could be a solution for the Olympics, but I'm sure there's a lot of people disappointed with the news today that there is no new arena plan for the Flames figured out here.
Well, Sean can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not currently in Calgary right now, but I actually don't know if there is a huge appetite for the taxpayer to be spending a bunch of money on the Flames arena. I think the general perception is that the Flames ownership should be paying for this new arena. And I wonder if this was a political...
That is the overwhelming opinion in Calgary, is that, do we want a new arena? Yes. But are us as taxpayers willing to foot the bill? No. And that's the same issue with the Olympic bid, is that there is a lot of taxpayers' money going in that would go into it. Civic, provincial, federal, all the taxes from there would go in to help fund this bid. And if we get it and all everything that comes with it. And the other thing with that is, I don't believe they've actually come in with a concrete number for the actual cost of the Olympics in Vancouver, which is really turning off the appetite on many people here in Calgary who don't want more cost uncertainty coming into the city.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question that's going to be a little bit controversial here, but it does relate to the NHL and the hockey aspect of this and the hockey part of this. Because part of me feels that this was a little strategic and a little bit of a shot at Flames ownership. Because I wondered if Flames ownership was playing that if you're going to go for the Olympics, you're going to give us the arena because you would have to. And interestingly enough, they've decided that they're going with the 6,000 seat arena, which would be enough to have the Calgary Hitmen. They don't need to be playing in the Saddle Dome. Really, there's no need. They can play in a 6,000 seat arena. The junior team. Can you see the Calgary Flames
potentially, but I would also say that with the current relationship between the IOC and the NHL, I think trying to work with both parties at this point to get a new big arena that would basically benefit the Flames and the NHL might be tricky ground to walk on and navigate. So that might be part of the reason as well.
Could you see the Calgary Flames moving?
No,
I don't see them moving. No, it's too wealthy a market with too much of a hardcore hockey fan base for the NHL to abandon, especially when they want to get to 32 teams. I don't see that as reasonable at all.
Yeah. But I do think that the Flames ownership, I think, has really comes back to the beginning. This is another example of ownership not playing the PR card right, and you know, this has been sort of the underlying story that hasn't really been talked about. But how, the Flames ownership and the sending out Ken King, not answering questions, and presuming the fact that the taxpayers are going to be able to willingly fit this bill, presenting the West Village concept, which I don't think went over. Sean can also correct me if I'm wrong, beating Calgary, but that seemed like to go over like a lead balloon in Calgary as well. With, I think Flames ownership really misplayed this in a lot of ways, but.
Yeah, I think the idea of the new arena excites people, but every attempt that the Flames ownership has put together to try and get it funded by the taxpayers has not gone over well.
Yeah.
No, I think the ship sailed on that when the mayor was reelected. I mean, that was obviously an election issue. Was whether the taxpayers should be involved in funding the new arena. I think that's clearly going to stay as a firm no with Naheed Nenshi in charge at the city of Calgary. I've said this in the past. Like Edmonton really messed this up for Calgary. Edmonton's willingness to have a public funding component to Rogers Place. Now the Flames are looking like, well, we want our handout too, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let me know when you're leaving.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's true. I do think that what happened at Edmonton, I think that Flames ownership thought that it was going to be the exact same thing, and it's not working out the way that they thought. And yeah, it just didn't play to that hand. I think it's going to be very interesting. We're going to have more Calgary 2026 bid talk probably later on this week. Speaking of Edmonton, we have to go there too, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the prospect camps and stuff. The Edmonton Oilers, Bob McKenzie wrote an article today basically stating that if it would be a crime against hockey humanity if the Edmonton Oilers do not make the playoffs this year. Do we agree or disagree with this? Where are we with the Oilers?
That's actually funny that you mentioned the Oilers, because I thought there was a recent thing I was saying that McDavid is getting sick and tired of losing already or something. I don't know how true that was, but it seems like there's tension really going on in Edmonton with this season coming up. Just wanted to point that out quickly before you guys gave your analysis.
Yeah, I think from what I've read about on that is that it's not necessarily it's a crime against hockey humanity that the Oilers would miss the playoffs. It's a crime against hockey humanity that Connor McDavid would miss the playoffs. And the fact that the Oilers have been so pathetic at putting together a team that can keep up with Connor McDavid and support him to get them to the playoffs other than 1 year is a crime against hockey humanity because he is such a good player.
It's true.
It's a lot of star power missing from the playoffs without him in there. It would be reasonable to think that he feels like he's being let down around him. I mean, he increased his point total last year from the year before. But at the same time, the idea of building a team to support him, I mean, I'm not really a believer in that. I mean, I think you need really 3 solid forward lines, a decent fourth line to be able to roll all 4. That's what really makes you a credible playoff team. I mean, they seem so far from that right now.
I don't understand what they did in this offseason. Like, I really was mystified by why you're bringing out Kyle Brodziak. They didn't address their defense. Darnell Nurse is not going to be at training camp. They haven't settled that. I really don't. It is a mystery to me what the Oilers are doing.
Well, there's not much they can do. I mean, they got so much money tied up in 2 guys.
Well, that's that one mistake, but the whole expectation is when they signed McDavid that free agents would be flooding the gates and knocking on that door to come to Edmonton to go play with Connor McDavid, and that hasn't really happened.
I think they've been targeting the wrong free agents too, though. They've got one of the best skaters in the league, and they're surrounding him with players who are average at best at skating and can't keep up with him. Plus the fact that they continue to not know how to put together a blue line. Those are two of them. If they could figure that out, then Connor McDavid would have the puck more.
Yeah, Austin, what do you think?
To be honest, I mean, I know, like you guys have said, the thing is you need 3 solid forward lines, and even what we saw with the Washington Capitals, their fourth line really clutched through with the Lightning series and the Vegas series in the playoffs, to get them over over the edge and win the cup. You also need a solid depth on your fourth line as well, besides having 3 solid forward lines and a good defense core and a good dynamic duo of backup and starting goaltender. And basically, there are a lot of missing. Well, I don't know like a specific number, but there are a lot of missing pieces. They don't have a solid backup goalie. Cam Talbot is good, but he had a struggle last year. But I feel like he can. I wouldn't consider, just because I'm part of Hot Take Hockey, I wouldn't call this a hot take, but I fairly assume, like Carey Price, I think that Cam Talbot can rebound from this last season. But at the same time, he doesn't really have a good backup goalie. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and a couple of other forwards. Yes, they're great, but they need a couple of more forward to their depth and another strong defenseman. They're missing pieces that I understand. McDavid's frustrated, and I agree. Even though I'm from Michigan, I met a kid when I was at work one day at my job in the restaurant. He is a huge Connor McDavid fan, even though he lives in Florida. And it's like, yes, I agree. It's really injustice to the way that Connor McDavid should be, for a lot of his career, he should be in the playoffs. I want to see him in the playoffs, whether it's a year that he wins the cup or goes all the way, or it's a year that he's just in the playoffs. And it's like the Oilers are making some moves that either they're not making any moves or they're just not making good moves at all. It's like they need to wake up. It's like I really don't know how to answer will they make the playoffs next year, because it's like like it's a stretch. They possibly could, but at the same time, it's like it's a stretch because there's a really strong feeling in my gut that I don't think they're going to make it, and I feel like it's going to even anger McDavid more. So this season, they need to really focus on building their team to a better standard, to where they can make the playoffs in a year or two. Because the way they are, I just don't see it happening.
Last year, the playoff teams from the Pacific Division were LA, San Jose, Anaheim, Vegas. I think it was just the four.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you really need one of those teams to fall off. And is one of those teams going to, is one of those teams going to fall off more than Edmonton rebounds like that? I mean, I would say, if you're asking me today, no, because Edmonton hasn't really solved the issues that they had last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they want to say well, what's is it a one fluke thing? It's maybe so, but Vegas, I don't think is going to want to go on that path. It's how much are they going to really decrease? Maybe they won't win the division, but at the same time, I don't see them falling off the handrails. It's so Edmonton rebounding more than Vegas falling off the handle is just, I'm sorry, that today, right now, as we're sitting, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, as I mentioned in the last podcast, even the Flames, I'm not sure what to make of them. I mean, they've made changes. Are they good changes? We have to wait and see. And I feel like this is the same thing with the Oilers. I don't know what this team is. I don't know at the end of the day, what are the Edmonton Oilers? And for the love of God, they've got to figure this defense situation. This has been 18 years of not, and more than 18 years, really. It's been about 20 years that they really haven't figured out this defense at all. And they have some good stuff, but
it's not enough.
It's not enough.
No, the three highest paid defensemen are Andre Sekera, Oscar Klefbom, and Adam Larson. I mean, that just doesn't knock anybody's socks off.
Yeah.
And Chris Russell comes in as the fourth highest paid, $4 million for a cap hit. As far as McDavid and being in the playoffs, time's going to tell. We're still, it's pretty early in his career here still, but time's going to tell whether that big contract he took has hurt his team's chances of building a better team, around him.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say. I mean, if you have good management, then they can do it. But he's making a lot of money. Draisaitl's making a lot of money. Milan Lucic at $6 million cap hit. I mean, that's such an anchor around that team. And the defense paid what they are. I mean, I don't know if that's good value or not. They're not super. There's no superstar defense there.
No. It's only time will tell. It's whether or not those contracts that they've given to those star players, those 4 or 5 players, in the end was good or not. It's whether or not they should have, built a stronger team around these star players instead of just giving them a ton of money. I just wanted to quickly ask all three of you, and it doesn't matter who answers first. Obviously, they need a solid backup goalie, but how many offensive players do you think they're missing, that to help the team, and how many defensive players do you think that are specifically are they missing, that they need to really try to get this team in the right direction? How many pieces do you think they're missing?
Well, they don't have I would say they have got Klefbom up on the blue line. That's a good puck moving defenseman that can get the puck up there in the top 4. And then Sekera just can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
because I think he's injured again.
Yeah, he's out for 6 months.
Yeah.
Holy crap, 6 months.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So then after that, you've got Adam Larson, he's a good second pair defenseman, but nothing spectacular. Chris Russell can block a lot of the shots, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And then after that, they haven't really done anything to shore that up. So you're still you've got Matt Benning making $1.9 million, and then some Czech guy that they just signed making $1 million, and it's just that blue line is a sieve.
Yes.
They basically don't have any depth in that third defense pair. Basically, they don't have any.
Yeah. And then up front, you've got there's still, I would say, there's still a decent amount of talent up front. You're going to see. There's a good chance you're going to see Kailer Yamamoto step up and play a good chunk of the season with them. Ty Ratty came came up last year and played really well. I think he's a good ad. Maybe and some more development effort, Jesse Puljujarvi. But for me, it comes down to the blue line.
Yeah,
that blue line is not good enough.
Yeah,
and
especially in this.
And Cam Talbot, as good as he is still only an average to sub-average starting goaltender in the NHL right now.
Yeah. As we wrap up here, training camp storylines for the Canucks. What are you guys thinking about? I'll toss one in, and I'll toss one in for the Flames as well, as we're whoever wants.
My look is just to see what young players are gonna push for spots. Pettersson did everything that I expected out of him in the Young Stars. Dominated, showed that he is above that level and has showing off the offensive skills. Jonathan Dahlen is my dark horse pick and my bold prediction that will be he's going to be on the Canucks sooner than later. And then maybe see where Hugh Levy fits in the Canucks blue line.
Yeah, Hugh Levy's one that for me I think is top of the list of things that I'm most curious to find out about. The other one would be whether Elias Pettersson's a center or a winger. I think it's pretty safe to say he's going to make the team, but in what capacity? So those two in particular, I mean, boy, if Ole Juolevi can't, at least have a strong showing, even if he doesn't make the opening day roster, he's got to still have a strong showing. Because if he doesn't, I mean, that's going to be some cause for panic, I think, with the Canucks and their defensive depth.
Yeah, I'm curious what Ben Hutton's going to bring to training camp, too. I think he's got to have a really good camp. And I'm curious. I mean, we know he doesn't go to the Roxy for sure, but we do need to have a good training camp for Jake Virtanen. Poor kid. I'm so sorry, that poor kid that did that. Anyway.
You just had to get that in, eh, Kev?
Had to. Anyway, poor guy. For the Flames, I'm tell you the dark horse to watch out for the Flames. I think Dylan Dubé has a really good shot of making this team. I really do. I think he's going to make a stir. And I think, I've said it before, I think Sam Bennett is in trouble to make this team. I think he has got to have a really, really good camp. I think his time of penalties is over. He's got to show some discipline. There's a lot of competition on this team, and he's got to show really well. Anything else? We've covered a lot today.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I think that's enough to sink your teeth into for now, Kevin.
All right. Where do we follow you guys?
I'm on Twitter. You can go ahead there, Sean.
Sorry, yeah, I'm on Twitter at BeardyCanuck03.
Great.
And I'm at TNoble, TNOBLE.
And you can follow me, KEVOLE. Follow Austin at Austin Cybulski, CYBULSKI. Subscribe to Hot Take Hockey on YouTube as well. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.